For the Design Future London Challenge, we have decided to renovate an abandoned building our local area called the Victoria. We have chosen this specific building to be changed into a soup kitchen for the local community due to multiple factors, such as high homelessness rate as well as living costs rising due to inflation. Our aim is to create a space where people feel welcome and safe, and to do this, we are taking into account the overall appearance of the exterior and interior of the renovated site, as well as the sustainability and reliability of possible materials that would be used in construction.
Towards the beginning of our project, we decided to visit the Victoria pub and take photographs from multiple angles to be able to build off from these photos and create designs later on. At the beginning of this project, as a group, we were deciding between locations in both Woolwich and Orpington. After assessing the differences between these two locations, we ultimately decided on Woolwich, as the soup kitchen would undoubtedly have a higher impact in this area. The amount of homeless people was last reported in 2022 to be 1,636. Being the only historic building left on Woolwich Road, the Victoria is currently listed in the Greenwich Council's list of buildings of local architectural or historic interest. After its opening in the 1880s, the pub suffered a fire in 1910 and was rebuilt shortly after. However, the pub ended up closing in the 90s after another severe fire and has been closed ever since. Up until 2023, there have been many proposals from developers to rebuild the pub, with the most recent being a plan to turn part of the building into a Domino's pizza takeaway alongside a single flat at the rear of the building. However, after the architectural sketches were released by the developers, no further planning meetings occurred due to concerns from locals about keeping historical parts of the pub intact.
In order to source inspiration, we also created a mood board. This essentially was just for us to brainstorm ideas and decide what we wanted the renovation to include.
All of our group members have created initial designs in the form of speed sketches. Here we listed the pros and cons of each of our members' sketches, such as pros being soup windows and keeping the original sign, benches, balconies and canopies, and cons being stuff such as unnecessary paths and looking too much like a pub rather than a soup kitchen.
Successful soup kitchens include plenty of seating areas, variety of tables, including benches and round tables, a large fully functional kitchen which would enable a variety of food to be cooked in, a hot area for food to be served at, a flow between kitchen and the service area, trays for food to be served in, and rooms for various services to be provided. Before we created any models, we had to develop a floor plan. This was an essential part of the planning process, as we had to consider all the different factors we wanted to include in the design in order to aid the local area in the most efficient way possible.
For our insulation, we chose hemp insulation due to its environmentally friendly production process. For our brick, we had to decide between hempcrete and traditional brick. Although hempcrete is more sustainable, it did not match the traditional aesthetic of the building, as well as being less water resistant than traditional brick. Due to this, we opted with traditional brick due to it being more aesthetically compatible as well as being easier to source.
Based off our speed sketches, we created a final design that combined all our best ideas into one and would help us when creating a 3D model. The main elements we kept were the traditional pub design, since the building is listed as a heritage site and it would allow us to renovate instead of replace, which would be much more sustainable. We also decided to extend the building and add new features such as colour and a disability ramp.
So after the final sketch was created, I created a digital 3D model to go alongside it. Initially, this provoked a few problems. Firstly, I'd only used the modelling software once before, which meant my abilities were very limited, and I had to learn to model with online tutorials as well as just using trial and error. Despite this, I found the final result to be worth the effort.
After concerns about the previous planning for renovations of this building not being liked by the locals, we chose to preserve the historical architecture of the building, along with the Victoria sign, which acts as a landmark for many and will serve as a reminder to the history of the building itself.
Finally, we constructed our physical 3D model. This was a challenge in multiple ways. To begin with, we had to use 2D design. Although we could get very accurate in straight lines by using the software, it was very difficult to map out an entire building through 2D shapes. We used our digital model and final sketch as a reference in order to map out each window and wall, as well as creating corresponding window frames, door frames and wall trimmings.
When creating our 3D model, we were very thorough with our detailing, which can be seen on the pictures on this slide. Here we've also included process pictures such as cutting the foam board with a laser cutter. Here is our final design.